Hi, and welcome to Crash Course Cryptozoology. I'd like to first acknowledge that it's been a bit of time since I've last uploaded a proper video, and of course with things going how they are, as I'm sure all of you are aware, on both great and not so great fronts, it can be difficult for one to put together the proper amount of effort into a scientific inquiry, which is what I attempt my best to make all of these videos. And that's exactly what this video is as well. Today I would like to discuss with you a piece of cryptozoological evidence that has undergone a rather strange transformation over time, a sort of solidification in where it stands in the public eye, that it's been difficult to move it anywhere. That description is in reference to the Onaway photograph, which is actually one of, if not the first, alleged Dogman photographs to ever appear online. The analysis of this photograph will take place roughly in 3 stages. I would like to give an overview of the information surrounding the photograph, a brief one, discuss the photograph itself, visually, and then further expand upon the history to truly understand the nature of the Onaway photo. The Onaway photo was allegedly taken, or at least it appeared online with the story that it was allegedly taken, in the early 2000s, around 2002 to 2004. The backstory often involves someone in a vehicle taking the photograph as they were passing by the side of the road. Usually the story involves this photographer being a child in a van who was with his family, or occasionally we do have the story of the police officer who took the photograph. For a brief record of history on this photo, that's a bit of all that there is. Anything more in-depth is more at home in the final stage of analysis. So, without further ado, I will be examining the photograph itself and analyzing it comprehensively. The Onaway photo is certainly a haunting one. That seems like that's the right word to use here. For those of you who are unaware, the Onaway photo is supposed to be that of a dogman, which, roughly speaking, is an upright canine or anthropoid canine cryptid sighted in North America, with a concentration on the Midwest, especially the northern Midwest. So, taking this into consideration, this sort of werewolf-like description of the dogman as a subject, we see immediately that, fake or not, the subject in this photo certainly does seem to fit the bill. As we can see, the inside of the car, which pertains to the story rather well, can be seen. It is looking out the window, this camera, and this appears to be a photograph taken at night, presumably with the windows rolled down because there is no reflection of the light off of the glass of the window, which is what we would expect to see. Instead, the light is shining directly onto this subject, and this can actually be seen first by the, what appear to be on the face, glare of light on perhaps what are teeth, and the eye shine this animal also gives off. The entire image has a sort of dull green tint to it, so the color of said eye shine isn't very determinable. It's got a very wolf-like head, which is a rather frank statement, but it's true. It's not very anthropoid, actually, this alleged dogman. It's actually far more canine than it is anthropoid, which is occasionally the report that you see with dogman reports, but, it's a bit of an outlier in that sense. It has these rather triangular but stout ears. They're a bit wide and less sharp than most dogman reports would say, which describes them as German Shepherd sort of ears. And it has this very, for lack of a better term, fluffy or floofy sort of puff around the head of hair, which is, again, a characteristic you'd expect to see of a sort of bristling wolf, which is, it's a coat of hair that's meant to keep you warm, but is also meant to communicate certain things. So the fact that it's a bit bristled up, perhaps, is significant. Now, the body itself is rather strange, because the body itself is what kind of differs the Onaway dogman from the typical dogman report. The arms are very strange. They have these sort of these sort of stubby paws instead of any kind of hand-like appendage, which is what is most commonly reported in Dogman reports, is this kind of hand-like appendage. The elbows seem to be bending in a rather strange manner. It almost looks as though the left arm of the creature is actually longer than the right arm, although this could be an optical illusion. We have these rather tapering shoulders that suggest that if there is a real creature in this photograph, the trapezius muscles are really quite vertical and straight instead of narrowing like they are in more anthropoid creatures without this kind of taper to them. This makes the shoulders overall look rather unimpressive, especially combined with this sort of thick and wide torso that it has, which again really reduces the pronunciation of not only the elbows and the forearms, but of the shoulders. Unfortunately, the lower half of this animal can't actually be viewed. There appears to be something in the way. Perhaps it's a fence of some kind, perhaps it's a log, perhaps it's a stump. It could be any number of things. The subject appears to show very minute detail, especially on the head. You can actually see folds in the hair, which is actually what you do expect to see with hair, especially if it's a wild animal and ungroomed. You can see highlights to the inside of the ears, it would seem. You can actually see where the ears kind of fold over and show the most likely pink or white skin beneath the hair. You can see facial detail. There is a nose present that forms a perfect V-shape between the eyes, which is again what you expect to see in a canine creature. These sort of muscle rings around the eyes, which are very visible and again, natural. And of course the teeth, which appear to be bared, or at least they are agape with the mouth towards the vehicle. Again, the color of this subject can't really be determined, although being such a low saturation version of the green, it's likely that it's gray. There is disagreement over whether or not there appears to be motion blur on the subject as well, although the quick analysis visually of this photograph would seem at first to suggest that, but we'll be able to discuss that in more depth in a bit because this has been examined professionally. The lighting seems to overall be correct, although there is this kind of strange streak of light coming diagonally across the photograph that happens to encompass the dogman. And there is also light present on the inside of the car being reflected, so everything seems to suggest a flash photography instant. The eyes of the animal reflecting that light, and its body also being shown with that light, probably creating the images of the hair or the muscle definition with the light play. Again, it would seem from a purely visual analysis anyway. That's roughly all that can be said visually for the Onaway Dogman photograph, without getting too into detail and intruding too much into the final phase of analyzing the case. But, of course, this photograph taken outside of Onaway, Michigan, has more to it than meets the eye or too quick an analysis. And it is here that we enter the final phase of analyzing this photograph by going far more in depth on its history, not only up to this point, but also after this point. Most web pages that discuss the origins of the Onaway photograph label it as having been taken in the early 2000s. Some sources suggest around 2004. A time frame filtered search for anything mentioning the Onaway photograph actually shows that if this photo was ever actually snapped and not created, it must have been before not only 2004, but perhaps even before 2003. The earliest article that discusses the Onaway photograph, as well as attempts to show it, is actually from 2003. Particularly, this website is werewall.com, with the article being werewall.com/tag/dogman. The article takes many jabs at examining the many cases that are involved in either dogman photographs or various anecdotal and physical and photographic dogman evidence, one of which indeed being the Onaway dogman photo. However, what's strange about the website is that it labels the photograph as having been taken in 2004 while it was posted in 2003. This could be a typo, but it being a WordPress page, it's also possible that this website has been updated as recently as 2004. Luckily enough, the website does actually link a video under the Onaway, Michigan Dogman photo headline. Unfortunately, the video is privated, and neither the channel nor even the title of the video can even be viewed. It is probably safe to assume that this video was the origin point online for the Onaway Dogman photo and has since effectively been deleted, making Werewall the most early practical instance mentioning the Onaway photograph. Under the video link, the website reads, "There are two stories behind the 2004 Onaway, Michigan Dogman photo, but both involve a young boy taking the picture in his family's minivan. The first story involves the family hunting deer with relatives. With their kills gutted, the family climbs into their minivan to leave. The boy takes his seat in the back of the van. As the van rolled away, the boy turned around to see a huge, werewolf-like creature standing over the gut pile and growling. He quickly grabbed his camera and snapped the picture. The second story involves the family pulling into a rest stop where they were going to take a break from their late-night commute. As they came to a stop, they looked out the back window to see the fearsome creature baring its teeth and walking towards the van. The kids snapped the photo before they sped away into the night. The creature looks more like a bear than a wolf in my opinion, and there are plenty of bears in northern Michigan. It is, nonetheless, a creepy photo. Tell me what you think it is in the comments." A closer examination of this article actually shows that it was written on February 4th, 2018, meaning that not only was the notion that this website is being updated correct, it is being updated much more frequently than initially thought. However, it is also very exemplary of the kind of information that every article on the Onaway photo gives. The differing stories that vary slightly unless you're looking at the police story, which is actually quite vague and doesn't really have much to it. The lack of proper analysis, and the sort of overview nature of it. We are forced to rely on this, even though it is clearly not the earliest instance. It is exemplary of the earliest ones. There is, however, an earlier instance, in fact, predating the article on that website by about 10 years, of an analysis of the Dogman photograph. According to the video, The Michigan Dogman Evidence by Curtis Ward, two professional video analysts, Jordan Anderson and Terry Pressman, were given the chance, most likely for this documentary, to examine the photograph and come to their own conclusions.
Camera and snapped this image. When they arrived home and reviewed the photos, they were shocked to discover that the animal appeared to be standing upright behind a stump or other obstruction, assuming a classic threatening posture. Photo analysts Jordan Anderson and Terry Pressman both examined this image. Their viewpoints are split. Anderson sees evidence of some digital manipulation, including brush strokes near the arms of the creature, the odd vertical white streak near the lower part of the body, and the disproportionately large head of the animal. Pressman, on the other hand, believes the image to be genuine. He states that the alignment of light sourcing is nearly perfect when one considers the flash reflections on the interior panels of the car and the cast of light on the animal. Pressman believes the brushstrokes are caused by motion, not manipulation. He also points out that no amount of contrasting or filtering of the image can produce evidence of layering or a composite.
As the clip states, the two came to very different conclusions. It is Anderson's conclusion that actually proves the most tantalizing. Anderson was kind enough to point out the specific spots on the photograph that he said showed signs of brushstroking. For those unfamiliar with the term, brushstroking is essentially the act of moving one's cursor in an editing software, particularly for images, and kind of dragging the image with it in order to either flesh it out or perhaps to make the darkness encroach a bit more in on the subject, to cover up signs of other evidence being edited, etc., etc. Smearing might be a good definition. This analysis went unregarded, widely unregarded, for 12 years now. And it still is unregarded, but recent evidence has come to light that makes particularly Anderson's case an absolutely devastating blow to the Onaway Dogman photograph. A search now on Google for the Onaway Dogman reveals most of the classic articles and videos pretty instantly. But scroll down a bit and you'll find a particular Reddit article entitled "The Onaway Photo, What Do You Guys Think?" This was posted roughly a year ago from the user Nincomposer. The photo, which we'll discuss in just a moment, is captioned with, "I recently stumbled upon this picture captioned Timber Wolfpack Attack on a random browsing spree and found it quite closely matches the Onaway photo. I did a quick superimpose. It's a bit dodgy, I know. I am horrible at editing. And this is what I came up with." And indeed, this is what he came up with. The photographs, aside of course from the removal of the background, match each other 100%, with the only editing being color and the addition of eyeshine, as well as the lowering of quality, which makes a fake more difficult to detect. This is a very special case because many a time you'll come across hoax cases that have resemblances to portions of other photographs, but perhaps not exact ones. Locating the correct location of the Sandromancy chant picture, for example, has really proven that photographs can resemble other photographs without actually being taken in the same spot or including the same objects. This, however, is exceedingly specific, and is truly too specific to be correctly written off. In fact, it can't be written off. Mathematically, it can't be written off. Roughly 657 billion images are uploaded to the internet every year. Considering it's 2020, that means that there are roughly 19,000 billion images on the internet right now. And out of all of these photographs, out of every single one of them, the Onaway photo shares every single one of its features of its subject with only one of those 19,000 billion photographs. Calculating this, the odds that happening are roughly 5 with a repeating infinite decimal to the negative 11th. The odds that the Onaway photograph is its own photograph and has nothing to do with the background of the Timberwolf image, but resembles it so closely, is, quite literally, mathematically negative. It is impossible. It appears to be the case that this photograph was taken, edited into a picture, likely one taken from the actual inside of a car, since the inside of the car has not been found on any other website yet, and sent onto the online platform in the early 2000s, and was just never debunked until now. The icing on the cake being that the areas where Anderson detected brushstroking had happened are exactly the areas where the most amount of editing to hide white borders created by other wolves being near the main wolf in the picture would have had to have happened. Anderson was on the right track, and this Redditor cracked the case. I'd like to thank both of them for their contributions to cryptozoology. It's exactly this kind of research that we need more often in this field. This is an extremely long-standing hoax, and it's been standing where it is so long that even the debunking of it directly by this Redditor has been very hard to get into the mainstream because it's just so solidified. Hopefully this video can help topple that and bring in a new view and paradigm, a much more accurate one, to this photograph. That being said, until next time.